Chatbots! Welcome back to another episode of Chat About That. I'm Bella.
I'm Malik.
And in this episode, we're chatting about our favorite films of 2023. Before we chat about that, I just want to say I know that Malik and I have not recorded an episode in months. I think our last episode was in like August. When we talked about the Titan submersible. But we have just been so incredibly busy. This year was so much fun.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It was so much fun. We did so many awesome things, but we just had so much going on that we just kind of put the podcast to the side, which is not what we want to do. We do want to make episodes, so we are going to have a lot more episodes. We're not going to be closing out this season or anything. We're just closing out the year. But we have a lot of episodes that we want to record, lots of cool things that we want to talk about. And yeah, I just wanted to give that little update. So we will be recording episodes more regularly. Hopefully we will have one once a month.
Yeah.
So just bear with us, and we're grateful for everyone who has listened so far. So, like I mentioned in the intro, we're going to be talking about our favorite films of 2023. We're basically going to go through the list of all the films that we saw, and we'll first go through the list of the films that we didn't actually get around to seeing. There were so many films this year, and we didn't see a couple of these movies. I think I have my list. It's 26 movies that we did not get to see. And between the two of us, there were 23 movies that we did get to see. So the movies that we didn't get around to seeing were just for a variety of reasons. Some of them were like only in the theater, and we really don't go to the movie theater unless it's like a big movie.
So expensive.
Yeah, it's really expensive. Like I feel like after COVID, like they just hiked up the pricing of movies. So some of these were just only movie theater releases, and we just didn't really care to go see them in theater. Some of them were have since been available on like streaming services, but some of them you still have to pay for. Some of them we just didn't get around to seeing for whatever reason. So I'm going to go through the list really quick of the films that we did not get to see, and we almost saw a couple of these movies over like our over the past like month or so. We were going to watch a couple of these, but you had to pay for them, and we already pay for all these streaming services. We don't want to pay for more movies.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
So we're just going to go through the list really quick. Like I said, there's 26 movies on here. So the first one was Knock at the Cabin, which we really did want to see. Renfield, which we almost watched the other day, but my mom didn't want to watch it, so we didn't watch it, but maybe we could watch that one maybe tonight. Reality, which was a movie on Max that's based on a true story, so I think you would like that one. A Strange Way of Life. I don't think this one was really released widely. It's a short film, actually, that features Pedro Pascal and Ethan Hawke, and they're basically gay cowboys. Oh, cool. And it was released like really like it's like a short film, but the release of it was like not very widespread, and I don't think it's online. I don't even really know where you can find it. I think it was at like a film festival or something. I could be wrong about that, but probably. Whenever it's out, I definitely want to see it. The other one was Asteroid City, which my family did actually go see in the theater. Elemental, I actually have not seen quite a few of the newer Pixar films.
Me neither.
So maybe we should do a little Pixar movie marathon. No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. I really wanted to see that because that was like one of the first movies that Jennifer Lawrence did that was more comedic. Oh, and I feel like all of the movies she's done, and they're great movies, but like most of the movies that she's done, she's like really depressed, or it's like a really like serious story, and I feel like she doesn't really get to do comedy a lot.
Tragic, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like she doesn't get to do a lot of comedy, and that movie was like just a straight up comedy, and I really wanted to see it. The other one was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Soon.
The first Into the Spider-Verse is such an amazing film.
So cool.
It won an Oscar, actually.
Oh, yeah?
He was like Best Animated Film or something.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it was
badass. Yeah,
that movie was amazing. Insidious: The Red Door, we almost watched it, but then we realized that we'd had to pay like $10 or something.
It was crazy. Yeah. It's like usually they're single digits, but this one was like at least double digits, and it's like, come on, we're already paying for the streaming service. Like it's like
yeah, it's like
what's going on?
It was annoying. So whenever that one is out, because we're big horror fans. Oppenheimer, we did not get to see Oppenheimer. We did see Barbie, which we will talk about. Obviously, I'm biased. If you're watching the podcast, I am wearing my new Barbie sweater. But we did not see Oppenheimer, so hopefully we can see that one soon. Talk to Me, which was an A24 film, and it was like a horror film. They're the same studio that did Bodies, 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 and The Witch.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah, A24 has, and Midsommar.
Yeah. Okay.
They've done, like, A24 does, like, amazing films. So that one we didn't get to see. Bottoms, which was another A24 film. Apparently that one's, like, super gay.
Yeah. Cool.
We didn't see that one yet. The Last Voyage of the Demeter, another film we were going to watch. We were literally ready. We sat down, we had our popcorn, we were ready. It was, like, $19.99 to rent. I was like, no, we're not doing that. Haunting in Venice. That one's the third installment of the Agatha Christie series. The first one was The Murder on the Orient Express, and then The Death on the Nile, and then Haunting in Venice is like the third installment. My sister watched it. She said it was not as good as the other two, but I would like to watch it. So that one's definitely going to be on our list. Saw 10. We did not get to see Saw 10. It was a only theater release. And when that one came out, the Eras Tour movie was in the theater, so obviously I went and saw that one instead of Saw. But we love Saw. We're probably going to do a podcast all about the Saw films.
Yes.
Because now that we've, like, once we see Saw 10, we'll have actually seen all of them, because we just watched Spiral.
Yep.
But Spiral did not come out this year, so we're not talking about it. Quiz Lady, which came out on Hulu, it looks really funny.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a comedy movie, and it looked really cute. Thanksgiving was a new movie that came out we didn't get to see. Leo, which was a Netflix original, and we actually got kicked off my dad's Netflix earlier in the year, so I think a couple more of these on the list are like Netflix only movies, but hopefully we'll get Netflix for ourselves this year and we can watch Leo because it's about a little iguana and a little turtle. It looks really cute. Reptile. Yes, we love reptiles. May December, which I actually just learned about today, has Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. It looks really good. I think you would like it too. The new Godzilla movie, we didn't get to see that one yet, and I know you love Godzilla.
It's supposed to be very epic and made on like a shoestring budget of like 15 million.
Only 15 million. Wow, that's such
I mean,
a short
compared to
budget.
like 50 and 100 million these days. Apparently, it holds up, and the story is actually good as well.
I would like to see it. Waitress the musical. I really wanted to see that. I think that was only in the theater for like a limited time. Leave the World Behind, which is another Netflix film that I think just came out like last week. Poor Things, the new movie with Emma Stone. That movie already got like 1 million Oscar nominations. She's probably going to win the Oscar for it. It looked really funny. Rebel Moon, another one that just came out on Netflix that my dad was talking about.
Yeah, they're saying good things about it.
And then The Iron Claw, which is another A24 film that's about a real story of a family of wrestlers, and it's actually like a really tragic story, but Zac Efron's in it, and that's why his like face was like really weird for a while. Like there were all these pictures of Zac Efron out that were like paparazzi pictures, and his face was all like weird, and people were like, oh my god, he had plastic surgery, what the hell did he do? No, it was fake plastic surgery for the film, but it's based on a real story, and it looks like the real story is insane. But I think it's getting released, like it just got released, or it's getting released like really soon. And then the last one is Nosferatu, which we love vampires, so we wanted to see that one as well. So those are the 26 films that we did not get to see, that we hopefully get to see, and maybe we'll watch one of those tonight. Editing Bella here. Right after we recorded this episode, Malik and I actually watched Renfield, and we loved it. It was so funny. Renfield is a Dracula movie, actually. It stars Nicolas Cage as Dracula and Nicholas Hoult as Renfield. And basically, Renfield is Dracula's servant, and it's sort of a modern story about Renfield and how he, doesn't want to be Dracula's servant anymore, and just hilarity ensues, and there's other plots within the movie. It's really funny, a classic Nicolas Cage movie, and everyone who was in the film did a phenomenal job. I don't think it got as much press as it should have, because I think it was in the theater, and then now it's available to watch on streaming services. But yeah, we loved Renfield and highly recommend it. Okay, so like I said, there were 23 films this year that between the two of us, we saw all of them. And we'll mention which ones only one of us saw. But the first movie on the list, and this is also roughly in release order, and then at the end, I think we'll say like what our top 3 favorite films of the year was. Okay, so the first movie on the list is Megan, which is a Blumhouse film, and Blumhouse has like stepped up their movies. If you don't know what Blumhouse is, maybe we'll do like a whole episode on just like Blumhouse movies and like what our favorite ones are. Because I feel like for a while Blumhouse, the movies like they were like hit or miss. They were either really good or they were terrible. But in the last like 2 or 3 years, like every Blumhouse movie has been like banging. And I loved Megan. For this list, we'll go into a little bit more detail. So Megan is a movie. It's a horror comedy satire about a AI robot named Megan who kind of turns evil, and it's just we're not going to give spoilers away, but it's not like too scary. I'd say there's like jump scares, but it's not like overly horror. It's more horror comedy.
Definitely lean into the self-aware.
Yes.
And the AI.
It's very self-aware of how like goofy it is, but it's also sort of like
it's more thrilling.
Yeah,
it's scary. Like there's some kind of action-y points, but none of it's really like I wouldn't call it horror.
No, it's more like suspense. But it's a really good movie. We actually saw it twice, I think.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very entertaining.
It's a very fun movie, and if you like suspenseful movies, if you like satire, sort of meta movies, I think you would really enjoy Megan. And there's rumors that there will be a sequel.
Oh my god.
Because the ending is a little ambiguous. The second film on the list is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is the 3rd installment of the Ant-Man series that's in the Marvel universe. We're big Marvel people. I will say, out of all the Ant-Man movies, I think it was my least favorite, and out of all the Marvel films, it's definitely not in my like top 10. And I don't hate the Ant-Man series. I think they're fun movies, but I just think compared to like the other movies, they're not as like interesting to me. And it's kind of awkward because the main villain is played by Jonathan Majors, who we're not going to get into the whole thing, but he was recently dropped by Marvel because of abuse allegations. Well, not really allegations. He was recently convicted of abuse. And so Marvel has since dropped him, and he was supposed to play basically like the new Thanos of the series. So we're not really sure what Marvel's going to be doing. They haven't really talked about it yet, but just rewatching it's going to be kind of like awkward because it's like, what are we going to do with this whole series? And then he was also like a huge character on, it's the same character, but he was also on the Loki series. And we're not talking about TV shows because that would be a whole nother podcast. But yeah, it's just kind of awkward to like rewatching it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to rewatch it until they figure out like what they're going to do with King. Because like I feel like I'm just going to confuse myself. But like it wasn't a bad movie. It was definitely entertaining. You know, still had the Marvel factor. I love Paul Rudd. Just out of all like the Marvel movies, it just wasn't one of my favorites.
It was a fun standalone movie, action adventure, cool effects. I mean,
yeah,
the kind of, you know, the checklist of what you'd expect from a movie like that.
Yeah, but not my top 10.
Yeah, what wasn't groundbreaking by Marvel standards or any means.
Yeah.
It's still fun though.
The third one on the list, we're technically we didn't finish this movie because it was so bad. I made the decision to stop watching it. I don't know if you wanted to continue watching it, but it was just so unwatchable, which was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So Winnie the Pooh, the property of like the IP, the intellectual property of Winnie the Pooh recently like ended. So basically anybody can like use the Winnie the Pooh characters and make stories out of them. And so somebody decided that they were going to make a horror film about Winnie the Pooh. And the first maybe like 10 minutes of the movie were like pretty interesting. And then after that, it wasn't, I don't know, it was really bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, it just...
You can't even describe how bad it was. His face... Your face kind of said it all, which if you're listening to this podcast, you can't see his face. But it just was not good. It was just bad.
Even like the tribe wannabe scary parts were just so poor. And
it was like a really like... I don't know what the budget was for the film, but it was just... It read as like a really low budget, just bad movie. But the concept of it is like so interesting though.
They tried with the concept, but then it kind of... They introduced the backstory in the first 10 minutes, like you said. We're like, okay, like...
Yeah.
here's maybe some motive for the bad things to happen, then once they actually introduced the characters, we were just lost. Like, what's going on? Why are they doing it? Was pointless.
Maybe we'll finish it, but we wanted to include it on the list because technically we watched like part of it. Yeah, that's what we're gonna say about that movie because I could talk about that for a while. Number 4 is, this might be in my like, I don't know if it's in my top 3, but it might be in my top like 10, 5 favorite movies, was Cocaine Bear.
Probably not one of my top, but definitely a memorable.
Cocaine Bear is roughly based on a real story, and I know we have other movies to talk about. We're only like 4 movies in, but I will give a little bit of a backstory for this movie because it's based on a true story. Back in the 80s, a plane carrying lots of cocaine flew over a forest, and some of the cocaine, I don't know if the people like threw it out of the plane or fell out of the plane, whatever, it doesn't really matter, fell into a forest, and a bear ate a bunch of cocaine. And in real life, the bear was just like high as hell and just flopping around the forest, and I think they ended up shooting the bear because it's like potentially dangerous. And the bear is like taxidermied in a mall in the area where this happened. But like if you go to that town, there's a mall there, and the cocaine bear is like taxidermied. So that's like the real story. The movie decided to take a very ridiculous approach, and basically the bear becomes like really aggressive and like addicted to the cocaine, so it's like seeking out all the cocaine and then starts like attacking people, and it's just really ridiculous. And then there's like a subplot with like the drug dealers trying to get the coke back, but they don't know that the bear ate it, and it's like, it's so unhinged, but it's just really funny. And it just like reminded me of like these old school like early like mid 2000s like comedies, kind of like The Hangover, like Step Brothers. Like it kind of had like that over the top uncanny ridiculousness comedy that I loved in those kinds of movies. And it just like, it was kind of nostalgic in a way because of like the humor reminded me of like those Step Brothers, Ricky Bobby. Like I think that's why I really liked it. And it's so stupid, and it was so self-aware of how stupid it was. It was just a brilliant movie.
Yeah, over the top. I was literally about to describe it, but you said it. I was like, yeah, that's just everything. Just step it up to 11. As far as just kooky, bloodshed, random violence. It's.
If you don't mind like a lot of gore and a lot of like swearing, this is a great movie to watch. But if you're not like, if that's not your like your cup of tea, I wouldn't watch it. But it's just ridiculous. And I really enjoyed it. Number 5 was, I think, on certain lists as one of the worst movies of the year, but I liked it. It's Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which a lot of people hate the Shazam movies, but I love them. I am more of a Marvel fan, like we mentioned, than DC. DC has like a couple of characters in it that I love. I will watch anything with them, and Shazam is one of them. The other 2 are Harley Quinn and Wonder Woman. If it's not those 3, I'm not going to really care. But I loved the second Shazam movie. I thought it was just as good as the first one. And we actually did end up seeing that one in the movie theater.
I liked it. I thought it was fun. I liked the first one better. The first one was a bit tighter story.
The first one was definitely better, but I don't think it was like terrible compared to the first one. It was definitely like a perfect sequel. Like it fit. Like you could watch them like back to back, and it made sense. I like Zachary Levi. I personally really enjoyed the movie, but yeah, I think that was like on like, I don't know who makes these lists, but I think it was like worst movies of 2023, and that was like on there, which I liked it. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was worse.
yeah.
The next movie I did not see, but you saw this movie. It was Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah.
So tell us all about that film.
Yeah, it was actually really good. I mean, disclaimer, growing up or anything like that, I didn't actually play D&D. I only recently started playing it, but I was aware of it just through, osmosis and geek culture and the internet and those kinds of things. But going into watching it, now having some working knowledge of how the actual mechanics work, it was both a really entertaining like fantasy adventure movie, but also if you play the games, then you can see all the subtle little references. So it was very true to the game and also a fun standalone movie. So they really did a good job overall, and it was fun now playing the game, understanding the little like Easter eggs and references they threw in that maybe to a lay person watching it maybe kind of like, okay, this character's doing this weird thing. But as somebody who, now gets it, it's like, oh, okay, I get where they pulled that from. It's like, jeez. So it was a lot of fun. The effects were good. A good mix of, action, some more thrilling points with the monsters, and the villain was very cool. Cool creatures, cool designs.
Yeah, I actually did want to see that movie. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but I like Chris Pine. I like some of the other actors in it, and it just seemed like a cool action adventure movie, which I love action adventure. It's one of my favorite genres. So definitely want to check that one out. I think it's free on some streaming service, so I'll definitely watch that with you because I did actually watch
it again. It's a lot of fun.
The next movie was a more recent film that we watched. We watched it like 2 weeks ago, which was the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I really wanted to see it. So a couple of my coworkers have like younger kids, and they talked about this movie like all year. They saw it like a million times with their kids, and I just love Mario. Like I grew up playing like Mario games, and I just love the characters, and I thought the animation was really cute. I thought the overall story was really good. Really simple plot, but it was really cute. It had so many like callbacks to the games, which I really appreciate. Sometimes when they make games or, books or whatever into movies, they don't always put like little references and stuff. They really did that with this. They referenced so many of the games, so many of like the backstories and stuff. And I think they might be making a sequel. I hope that they make a spin-off movie with Luigi and do Luigi's Mansion.
I kind of feel like they were hinting at that.
I really hope they do like a Luigi's Mansion movie and like have Charlie Day, like the same voice actors, like all the people. Because, they definitely, like, hinted a little bit. There's, like, a couple parts where he gets, like, scared by, like, the booze and stuff. Yeah. But, like, I think, like, doing, like, the game of Luigi's Mansion as, like, a movie, that would be so cute. And Luigi is definitely my favorite of the Mario Brothers. But, and then, I guess I won't spoil it. But one of my favorite characters is definitely going to be making an appearance in the sequel, which was, like, at the end credits. So they're definitely gonna do a sequel. Really hope that they do Luigi's Mansion. But yeah, even if you like don't really like little kid movies or whatever, like I think you would enjoy it. Like if you're a Mario fan, I would definitely give it a watch. It was really, really cute. Mm-hmm. Number 8 is this is so hard for me because it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I adore the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. We went and saw this in the theater with my family. And this movie was so good. But I will never watch it ever again. Because it's not really... It's kind of a spoiler, but I'm not going to explain how this comes into play. But there is a lot of, like, animal experimentation and cruelty in the film. Not real animals. They're CGI animals. But that just really bothered me because I don't like animal cruelty. I don't like experimentation and like that kind of stuff. Like it just like oogs me out and it really rubs me the wrong way. And it was not like distastefully done. It was like literally a key part of the plot to discuss and to showcase the animal cruelty, this experimentation. Like it was literally the main plot of the film, and I understand why they had it in the film. Again, I don't think it was done distastefully. Obviously it was like CGI animals, so like it's not really like no animals were actually harmed, but just like the concept of that was really bothersome to me.
They're pretty rough scenes.
Yeah,
a few of them were
but it, like I said, it's such a key important part of the story and the motivation behind the entire, plot. So it's tough for me because I do want to rewatch it because I just genuinely enjoyed it. Like, other than that, like, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was a really great, not sequel, really great third installment of the series. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy films are some of, like, the best series in Marvel, and it was a really fantastic film. But it's definitely going to be one of those movies that, like, I might have to, like, pause it and, like, watch part of it and then maybe come back another day and watch it just because of the animal cruelty. And when I talked to other people about this movie, like, that wasn't, like, a really thing that, like, bothered a lot of other people, which there's nothing wrong with you if that didn't bother you. It was, like, again, it was CGI animals. Like, that is not always going to bother people. But that just, like, bothered us a bit. So I will caution you if you have not seen the film. But other than that... How did you like the movie? Because I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I enjoy it too. Again, some of the best installments of the series. And action was good. The story was good. Again, going into Rocket's and some others' backstories, it explains a lot. So it's worth watching at least for that at least once.
Yeah, and I think there was just so much like character development, and I really enjoy the aftermath plot lines, like the aftermath of like Endgame, and like how some of these characters dealt with coming back from the blip, and how like the whole like just Thanos and all that affected a lot of these characters, and I think some of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters were affected the most by what happened with Thanos and the blip and all of that. And I think just overall it was a fantastic film, but it was definitely like hard for us to watch. So just for those of you who haven't seen it, just be cautioned about that. But still, fantastic film. The next film on the list is The Little Mermaid live action remake. And before we talk about that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with casting Halle Bailey as the mermaid, as Little Mermaid, as Ariel. There's literally nothing wrong with that. There was nothing wrong with the casting, and I think she did a fantastic job. Yeah, she's a beautiful Ariel. Her voice is gorgeous. I actually thought that the live action went into like the plot and kind of made the plot have more substance, because when you think about the real story, well, not really like the book version of it, but when you think about like the actual other, like the original movie,
the original animated
the plot is like girl, like why are you giving up your entire life and your personality to be with a man? Like it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, rewatching it, it's like, oh
girl, like come on. This might be a controversial opinion, but I think Eric is one of the most boring Disney princes of all time. He has like no personality. I think he's just boring. And I don't really understand why she was interested in him. However, I think that the movie did a nice job of giving the plot a little more substance. They do talk about like Ariel's mother and how she, kind of a spoiler, but I mean it's been out for the story. The story has been out for a million years, and it's not really a spoiler. But like they talk about how Ariel's mom was killed by like humans, and so that's kind of like why Triton didn't want her to like go up to the surface. And then like the humans talk about how like the mer people like lure sailors into the ocean and kill them and stuff. So there was a lot of like tension between the two worlds, and they were like aware of each other in a sense. And then that just gave it a little bit more motivation. The ending was really nice. They added like some stuff to make the plot a little bit more interesting. I liked some of the original songs. There was like one that was like really annoying, that the seagull was singing.
Yeah, it was kind of like,
it was really annoying.
I didn't find that character as annoying as
I didn't think
people were ragging on her.
It was just that song was
the song was unnecessary. It just it added time to a very long movie.
I had to watch this movie. I had to watch it in 2 parts because it was so long.
It was like, it's still going.
Yeah. I think it took me 2 days to watch it because it was so long.
It's very long.
But it was really wonderful. And again, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the casting. I think Halle did an incredible job. She's so gorgeous. Her voice is beautiful, and yeah, she was perfect. She was a perfect Ariel. The next movie we actually just watched the other day, which was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Yeah. And my mom and dad and my sister went and saw this in the theaters, like when it came out, and they all were like, "This is one of the greatest Indiana Jones movie. It's the second best Indiana Jones movie ever." And my sister's like obsessed with Indiana Jones. It's like her favorite. And she was like, "Yeah, this is like the second best movie." And I was like, okay. And I agree with them. I think it was fantastic.
It was very good. Yeah, surprisingly good.
Yeah, it took place in the 70s? 1969. Took place in 1969 because they talk about the moon landing. And so Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, like he is supposed to be old in the film. And basically he's like trying to find the other half of like this dial of destiny. And I'm not gonna like go into the whole plot of it because it's kind of confusing. It made sense, but I'm not gonna be able to describe it
very
accurately.
Involved.
Yes, it was a very involved film, but it was really, really well done. I think it was very like on par with the original, very nostalgic, and it just was like a really like great way to like wrap up the story of Indiana Jones. So if you're an Indiana Jones fan, I would definitely watch it. And yeah, I agree with my family. I think it's the second best film. Mm-hmm. The next movie is my personal favorite movie of the year. I'm pointing to my shirt if you're not watching the podcast. This is Barbie. We went and saw Barbie in the theater. I saw it, I think, like the first week it was out. And it's an incredible film. This movie was so hyped, and I was waiting for this movie for like literally the second they announced this movie was coming out. I was like, I want to see this movie so badly. Margot Robbie is one of my favorite actresses. She was perfect as Barbie. Ryan Gosling was perfect as Ken. I think just like everything about this movie, like from the sets, the costume, the acting, the plot, like the story, just like everything was so well done. And it was also a commentary on like women and female empowerment and like how women feel inadequate and women feel like objects. And like I was not like expecting it to be like that. I didn't really know what to expect about it. But it was so well done. And I know a lot of like the I'm gonna say it, a lot of like the conservative men are very triggered by a female empowerment movie, and they're like, oh, they made men look dumb. It's like, oh my god, you make women look dumb all the time.
Like that was the whole point. It was like a dialogue.
Yes.
On the gender roles.
Yeah.
Like if you don't get that from the movie, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What's the point, man?
Yeah, like the point of it was not to shit on men. It was to discuss how women are seen as objects, and they're seen as just like being disposable and like things to look at, and like how, you know, the differences between like the patriarchy and matriarchal societies and systems. And I could just do like a whole like podcast, like not just episode, like a whole actual podcast about the film of Barbie, because it was so fantastic. And we were actually going to do an episode on Barbie and like what we thought about it and all the commentary. But it did come out around the time of the actors strike. And that's another reason why we didn't film a couple podcasts, because we want to talk about Barbie, want to talk about some other movies. And we didn't want to like be, you know, anti-actor strike, which I know like reviews, like movie reviews were protected, but I didn't want to like step over any lines or anything, so that's like another reason why we didn't talk about Barbie earlier. But yeah, it was so fantastic, and it is on Max, so I do want to rewatch it soon. But that, spoiler alert, that was my favorite movie of the year. What did you think about it?
Oh, I loved it. It was great. Even as far as, you know, how do you turn a toy line into a movie? That's just the creative liberties they took with that, and as well as just some silly things of her getting from the second story to the first floor of her house. She kind of floats.
That's because when you use
it's
a Barbie doll,
play, setting her at the top of the stairs to the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah,
she doesn't actually take the stairs.
You would pick the Barbie up and put her in the car, and it was like everything about like.
It was very clever.
Yes, like everything about when she's taking a shower, there's no water, but like to her there was water, and like her food. She was eating like plastic food, but she was actually eating it. Like it was, everything about it was like so amazing and
really, really creative, really cool.
Yeah, I don't want to like go into too much about it, but definitely like my favorite movie of the year. The next movie on the list was a Hulu original horror film called Cobweb. This movie was it was really good. But it was like really creepy. Like I actually think about, I'm not gonna give like it's kind of complicated to explain.
It is.
Basically it's about this little boy who, his parents are really weird and they're kind of like overly protective, and he starts hearing like a person talk to him through the walls, and the whole movie you're like, is he hallucinating? Is there like a ghost? Are the parents like actually crazy, or are they trying to protect him from something? And then once you figure out like what the hell is going on, the last like 20 minutes of the movie is absolutely insane. And then the ending, like, oh my god, I think about the ending of that movie a lot, and I'm like looking behind me like in the hallway, like, oh my god, is this like the thing? I'm not gonna say what it is, but like the thing that was in the walls, like I'm like, is that like gonna come after me? But it was really good.
It had us guessing.
Yes, I didn't know. It was such a like a roller coaster that you literally did not know what was gonna happen, and I honestly did not see it coming at all. Definitely a good horror movie that stuck with you. If you don't like horror movies, like I would not watch it. It's not gory, but it's just kind of creepy.
creepy. Yeah.
And like we watch a lot of horror movies, and over like the past like couple of years, like I would say maybe like 2017-ish, I started getting more into horror because I used to never watch horror. But I love horror now, and I was like covering my eyes at parts because it was actually so creepy. But it was really, really good. So if you
Very
like,
well done.
if you like a good scare, a good horror movie, I would recommend it. It's amazing.
Yeah. There were a couple points where I was like, okay, it's either this or it's this, and I was like, it's got to be one of these two things, and it was neither of those two things. I was like, okay.
But
oh
like,
my God.
if I rewatched it,
really cool.
I think if I like rewatched it, you might be able to be like,
oh,
now I see. Like, it like tricked you. It was very well done.
A lot of red herrings.
Yes.
Yeah. Well done. Not obviously.
Yeah.
Red herrings.
But yeah, if you like a good old fashioned spooky, don't know what's gonna happen twist horror
I like
film.
it too because it didn't spoon feed the audience.
No, it didn't give me anything.
It didn't think the audience is dumb. It didn't think the audience needed to be handed the plot on a silver platter. I get so sick of that. It really did, just we had no idea what was coming, and then we're like, oh.
And it got into what was going on like quickly. Like obviously the last like 20 to 30 minutes of the film was like where you get like the twist, and then it's just crazy from there on out. But up until that point, like it kept going and giving you pieces, and like it wasn't a slow burn. It was like it was just really well done.
Within the first few scenes,
yeah,
you were introduced to the spooky stuff.
Yeah,
like, cool.
So definitely a fantastic horror film if you are interested in horror. The next one is The Haunted Mansion, which did come out in the movie theater. It was around the actor strike, so I don't think a lot of people saw it in the theater, but it did come out on Disney Plus as well. I loved this version of The Haunted Mansion. I was not a fan of the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion, which I know you loved.
I did, yeah, I liked it a lot.
But I was not a fan of that one. But this version of it was much truer to the ride and the lore of the ride, and I loved it. I liked the addition of like the modern New Orleans, and I think all the acting was really well done. I don't think it was like stupid, like when you like I think the Eddie Murphy movie was like kind of campy and stupid. Like I don't know, it just was not my cup of tea. But this movie was like funny. It had action, it had spooks, a good plot. Like it just kept like it another movie that just you got right into it. It wasn't like, okay, it's been 15 minutes and nothing's like happened. Like it was interesting.
Yeah, and it actually made you care about the characters.
Yes.
Too, right off the bat. Like rather than kind of taking forever to introduce who's who, what's going on. It made you care about the main characters right away. And it's like, okay, so we have a stake in it. It was a lot of fun. I like that it wasn't a complete remake of the Eddie Murphy version either. So you kind of have two versions of the movie, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who like loves the Haunted Mansion ride and the lore of the ride, and you're like just like really like you just love it. Like some people like are obsessed with like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Like some people like Haunted Mansion's like their shit. And like I've heard like from people that like really loved Haunted Mansion, like the ride, they really loved this movie. They thought it was like a very well done version of the Haunted Mansion. So really, really fantastic movie. The next one, honestly, I was kind of disappointed in this, which was The Meg 2, The Trench. The Meg, the first movie of The Meg, is like honestly like it was like a sleeper movie. Like I feel like when it came out, it was just kind of like, oh, another shark movie, like blah blah blah. It was so good, the first one. It had, like, a twist. Like, you kind of think, like, in the first half of the movie, like, oh, they found the Megalodon. Like, okay, like, what the hell else is going to happen in the movie? And then this big plot point happens. I'm not going to spoil it, but, like, this big plot point happens, and then the rest of the movie is just unhinged. And I was expecting this movie to be like that, and it wasn't. And it was disappointing. It wasn't terrible, but I just didn't like it as much as the first one. I was honestly kind of disappointed.
No, it was definitely kind of, for lack of better terms, like Sci-Fi Channel level action.
Yeah.
And the story was not it.
I think if, spoiler alert, there's like dinosaurs in it, which make no sense.
It was weird, yeah.
And like if you're and I'm not going to explain like why there's dinosaurs, but like I get where they were coming from and like the explanation as to like why, but it just was not very good. And I think the CGI was bad. And, like, I loved the first one. It was so good. And I love Jason Statham. I think he's always in, like, these just unhinged action movies. Like, every single thing that he's in is just, like, an unhinged action movie. And, like, that's just his thing. Like, that's what he does. And there were some other, like, actors in the movie that were, like, decent. But, like, it did not live up to the first one. So I'm just gonna, like, never watch it ever again. And I'm gonna just pretend I didn't watch it and just continue to be obsessed with the first movie. Because the first Meg movie is, like, it's amazing. But the Meg 2, womp womp, not very good. The next movie I watched with my mom and my sister, which was My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I love the first My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's one of my favorite movies from, like, when I was growing up. The second movie was good. The third movie was good as well. Definitely not as good as the first one, but I do think it was a nice way to tie in the story. The actor who played the father in the first movie, was he in the second? He might have been in the second movie too. Since those films, he has passed away, so the film was centered around like his, the aftermath of him passing away, and they go to Greece to, reunite with some of their family and to basically, like, give some letters to the father's old friends, like, when the father lived in Greece. So the whole family, like, goes to Greece, and, it's a really lovely story of family. I think they tied in, the death of the father very nicely, and it was, like, a good like third part to the story, but definitely not as good as the original movie. The My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the first one, is, like, so good. But yeah, as, like, trilogy, it was a very good movie, but not my favorite movie of the year, but it wasn't bad by any means. Have you seen the first movie?
I haven't seen any of them.
You've never seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding? The Greeks, so I'm Italian. Greeks and Italian, like, their culture is very similar. Yeah. So, like, growing up, like, watching that movie, I was like, oh my god. Because they're Greek doesn't mean they're not, like, very similar to, like, how my family is. Oh my god. It's so good. You would love it. Okay, we're gonna watch that movie. But yeah, not a terrible movie, not my favorite movie of the year, but definitely a good movie. If you like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, if you like the series, I think you would enjoy the film. The next one we recently watched was Pet Sematary Bloodlines, which is a prequel to Pet Sematary. But this film, which is Pet Sematary, was a book by Stephen King, which was turned into a movie. And then the movie was remade, like, a couple of years ago, and we watched the remake. I've never seen the original, but I did watch the remake. And then this is a prequel, but the prequel was not written by Stephen King. It was written by, like, somebody else. So when that happens, normally I'm like, is this really, like, canon? But I guess, like, obviously if it was, like, made, like, Stephen King, like, approved it, like, I guess, because he must, like, obviously he gave them the rights to Pet Sematary, because that's, like, his book. I liked it. I thought it was good.
That was pretty good. It was, interesting being a prequel, because watching the remake, we know what's going on, so we're kind of there with the main character, waiting for him to figure out what's going on.
But this one, you already know what's going on.
Yeah, and, like, the first half of the movie I really enjoyed, because they were leaning really into the gore and stuff like that. Like, not, like, unnecessarily so, but, like, to the point where it was like, okay, like, good use of gore for horror and stuff like that. But then I feel like they bit off too much of a bite, because then there was too much going on where I was like, hang on, you didn't lead us, the first half didn't lead us into anything that I felt was really going on in the second half. So kind of lost me in the second half. First half was really good, really suspenseful. Cool backstory.
Yeah. Not a bad movie. It was well made.
Yeah. Creepy points,
I think if you like Stephen King, even though this wasn't, like, written by him, but, like, if you like Stephen King, if you like the original Pet Sematary, if you like, that kind of vibe and genre, I think you would enjoy it. It wasn't a bad movie at all. Mm-hmm. I think was it on Prime?
I think so.
I think it was a Prime. It was some streaming service. It came out. I think it was Prime. But not a bad movie. I liked it. Again, not my favorite one of the year, but it wasn't terrible. Yeah,
really good use of composition and, like, really good, thoughtful hovering on certain scenes to, like, really get the kind of, like, creep-ick factor. And so if you're into things like that, it was very good.
Do you mean the cinematography?
Yes.
You didn't take film classes in college.
So
anyway. The next one was No One Will Save You, which was that a Hulu original? I think it was a Hulu original. This movie, fantastic movie. Really great movie, and I'm going to spoil it because the trailer basically gives you the entire plot of the movie, which I wish the trailer was more ambiguous, because I think it would have made the twist way better, and the twist happens very early on in the film. Basically, it starts off as you think, and I'm not going to give away the whole plot because there's kind of a subplot going on that I don't want to talk about, so I don't want to ruin that. But it starts off, and you think it's a home invasion. You think that this woman who lives alone in this cabin, and she lives in a town, but she lives kind of in a secluded cabin. You think that her house is being broken into, and you think that there's a robber or whatever in the house. And in the trailer, it sets up like that, and it's creepy, she's under the bed. And then in the trailer, they freaking tell you that's an alien. I wish that they just made it ambiguous, put it on as a home invasion, a little sci-fi, and didn't give anything away. Because I saw the trailer, I was scrolling on TikTok, and they were like, "No, we'll save you, new best movie of the year," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch this." Freaking tells you it's an alien, and I don't even care that I'm spoiling it because it was in the freaking trailer. Other than it basically giving away the plot before you watch it, really good film. We did have to watch an analysis after we finished the movie because it was kind of not clear what happened at the end, but after we watched an analysis and we read an article about it, it made perfect sense. Now, if I rewatched it, I'd be like, okay, now I see where they were coming from. It was just a little bit it was a little it
was vague.
It was a little vague at the end, which I'm not a dumb person, but sometimes when I'm watching a movie, I just want you to tell me what's happening. I don't really want to guess. And it was a little confusing, but then after we I said, after we read an article, watching a little analysis about it, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Thought it was a really good ending. Very interesting. But yeah, I think the trailer, don't ruin the movie. Don't say it's an alien. Come on. Anyway, other than the trailer ruining it, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, really creepy. Really. The aliens.
It was creepy.
They were icky, and you were trying to figure out. There was a bunch of different kinds of aliens too, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and then there was like I said, there was a subplot which was very interesting, which ends up tying into what happens to the main character at the end. But yeah, it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, you were wondering, the subplot. You were wondering what the aliens were doing and stuff. It was cool.
You're also trying to figure out what's going on with the main character and because things happen to her before the aliens come that you're like, what is going on? Why are people acting like this around her? But it was very, very good. But yeah, kind of creepy. A good old fashioned oogie creepy alien
Invasion
movie. It kind of reminded me, not totally, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of Signs.
Yeah, it had similar vibes.
Yeah, but really, really good. Most of the film was just the one actress alone acting with CGI aliens. I think she was fantastic. I don't remember what her name is, and I don't know if I've seen her in other things, but she was very good. I really like movies where there's just one actor or actress kind of leading the way, and I think she did a fantastic job. She probably didn't get nominated for anything. She's probably not going to win anything because it's a sci-fi movie, and that kind of stuff doesn't really win, but I think she was fantastic. Okay. It was a really good movie. But yeah, it was a little confusing at the end. The next one of our favorite horror franchises, horror universes. It's the Nun 2, which is in the Conjuring universe. I'd also love to do an episode about the whole Conjuring universe, because we have now seen all of the films in the Conjuring universe. The Nun 2, not as good as the original Nun, but I think it was really good. Really perfect sequel. It explained a little bit more of the nun's backstory, because the character of the nun. So if you're not familiar, the Conjuring universe, it's based off of the Conjuring film, which is based off of a real haunting. Whether or not you believe in ghosts and stuff like that is irrelevant, but it's based on The Conjuring was based on a real haunting that was investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were real people. They were real, like, ghost... I don't want to say they weren't ghost hunters, but investigators. Lorraine Warren was clairvoyant. I think they both have since passed. But she was clairvoyant. She, she was very tied to the spirits. And then Ed, her husband, was, I think, the only person that was, like, allowed to perform exorcisms who was not a priest. So The Conjuring was based on a real haunting. And then The Nun is a spirit. I'm not going to go on the whole thing. It's kind of complicated if you haven't seen all of the films. But The Nun is a reoccurring entity in the universe. And I don't believe that creature is, like, based on anything real. It's just something that's... I could be wrong, but I don't believe it is. But The Nun, she's a reoccurring creature, I will say, an entity, in the whole Conjuring series. So this was the second installment of The Nun, specifically about just that entity. I really enjoyed it. I thought The Nun was... People, like, don't think The Nun is, like, one of the best ones in the Conjuring series. I really enjoyed The Nun, and I thought the second one was very well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely checks all the boxes as far as, like, your classic spook kind of demon possession stuff going on.
Yeah. And it's just, it's really interesting. Most of the main characters are female, if you like a good female female-led film.
Some of the specific, like, scary scenes, like revealing the nun, were very creative and very well done. Like, won't spoil it, but, like, the magazine revealed the magazines and
that was
really cool.
There's a cool chart.
Okay.
The director,
just stuff like that.
The director's James Wan. He's directed a ton of horror films. I actually think he did the Saw series, didn't he? I think he might have done. I'm pretty sure he did. He also directed this movie called *Malignant*, which is one of my absolute favorite horror films of all time. If you're not really into horror, but you, like, want to get into it, I would watch *Malignant*. It's not very scary, but it's very unhinged. It's a really good movie. It was kind of a sleeper movie, because it was out in the theater, like, for a very short time, and then it went to HBO. But James Wan, any movies that he does are fantastic. He directed the entire series, like, in the Conjuring universe. Really, really good. If you want to get into just horror films and you're ready to, like, go in guns a-blazing and just be like, okay, I don't care if I get scared, I would definitely recommend the entire, like, Conjuring series. Yeah. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, they're all very well done, like, classic spook movies. You can't go wrong with them.
Yeah, and his cinematography, the special effects, the actors that he picks, like, everything about these movies are just fantastic. So I think overall, like, as a series, as, like a universe of horror films, the Conjuring universe is my favorite of all the films. So.
Yeah, definitely top tier spook stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of spooky, the next film is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, yeah.
I was so excited for this because I love video games. I also love Josh Hutcherson and Matthew Lillard, and this movie was so good. But you were more excited for it for different reasons, so I want you to...
Yeah, I discovered, I mean, I was, way back when, was it 2013, 2014, YouTube, and the kind of, co-rise of Markiplier and Five Nights at Freddy's. They kind of built themselves up at the same time. So just watching that for years and years and years. I know a bunch of other YouTubers, obviously, played through the series and are very well known in the FNAF community, but I always just watch Markiplier. So finally seeing this as a movie, which had been teased for years, finally actually seeing it happen, it was really cool.
Yeah, and I was just excited about it for a lot of different reasons. And all of, like, so if you don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, it's...
Where have you been?
Five Nights at Freddy's is a video game. Like Malik said, it came out around 2013, 2014-ish. And it was basically like a jump scare horror game where you're basically supposed to be, you're playing as a night guard at a...
indie horror.
Indie horror game. Yeah. You're playing as a night guard at a defunct pizzeria. It's basically kind of like Chuck E. Cheese. And the animatronics in the pizzeria are basically, like, sentient, and you have to basically the whole mechanic of the game is you have to like click a bunch of things and do a bunch of things, and if you do it correctly, the animatronics won't come and kill you, but if you do, then they'll jump scare, and it's kind of like a classic jump scare horror game.
It gets more difficult per night.
Yeah, and you have to survive 5 nights. That's what it's called, 5 Nights at Freddy's. And then they made a bunch of games, and then you told me that the original guy made the first couple, and then he sold the rights.
Yeah, he made the first. I won't go. It's hugely convoluted.
Yeah, the lore is.
He made most of the games. He recently sold the rights to a couple different studios. They've made, at least as of nearly the end of 2023, recording this. The last couple were made by the other studio, but still the lore and the story still there. It's branched out.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's very convoluted, but the movie
the movie's very true to the original lore, with a couple. They tied in a couple of the most recent games very smartly, very simply.
Yeah, and I knew about the lore, like, from Malik telling me about it. I've seen some people play, like, the first couple of games.
Just being around the internet, you can't miss
and I learned, watched, like, a deep dive into, like, the original guy who made the first, like, 4 games, was it?
More than that, yeah. He made a bunch of them. There's
like 5
prequels
or so.
And prequels and sister versions and stuff. He kept kind of explaining it.
The original creator, I had watched videos that explained his stories. I didn't really care to learn about the other stuff because I was like, okay, the original guy, like, that's where the actual lore came from. So I knew about that from those videos from Malik. Yeah, like you said, I think it tied in very nicely. It made sense. It was simplified it. And the animatronics in the movie were practical effects, which means they didn't use CGI. I think like some parts of it were like a little bit CGI here and there, but they were practical animatronics, which made it way more interesting. And then like the set was like spot on from the game.
The set was amazing.
And it was like, if you really enjoyed the video games or you just are a video game person, I think you would enjoy it. But I also think like if you just like a good old fashioned, just like interesting kind of kooky movie, I think you would enjoy it. Like my sister has never watched anything about Five Nights at Freddy's, but I think she would enjoy it.
They made it into a good mystery.
Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, you're right. It's kind of like a classic mystery. But
I'd say less horror, more thrilling. Thrilling sci-fi mystery.
Yeah,
kind of tied into one.
And like Malik mentioned earlier, Markiplier, who's a YouTuber, he kind of made Five Nights at Freddy's like really like blow up at the time because he was like one of the first people to play it. He was supposed to actually play a character in the film. So in the opening scene, there's a night guard who, I'm just gonna spoil it. It's literally like the first 2 minutes of the movie. There's a night guard in the beginning who ends up getting like attacked by the animatronics, and then that's why Josh Hutcherson's character has to come in and take over like as the night guard. Markiplier was supposed to play that character, so he was supposed to be like the first person we see in the movie, but unfortunately he had like filming conflict, so he wasn't able to be in the film. But they did want him to be in it. And then there's another YouTuber who does a lot of like film theories and stuff, and just theories in general. His name's Matt Pat, and Matt Pat actually had like a little cameo in the movie as well. So I do appreciate that the studio took the time to like kind of acknowledge these people who helped make the game more popular. So I do appreciate that. So I hope if they do have a sequel, I hope that Markiplier gets to at least have a little bit of a cameo.
Come on, man, missed opportunity.
But yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The next film on the list is one that I saw. It's the Eras Tour, Taylor Swift's concert movie. I did not get to go to the actual Eras Tour. So Taylor Swift, obviously, you know who she is. I've talked about her a million times on this podcast already. But she released the Eras Tour as a concert film for people who did not get to see it in person. And so I went on the opening night. I got all my like the popcorn bucket. I got a bunch of stuff, bunch of merch, and it was just so awesome. I've seen all of her other tours, and it really was filmed in a way that made you feel like you had a front row seat to the concert. And I could just go on and on and on about the Eras Tour movie, but I would say that's in my top 3 favorite movies of the year, but I'm not going to count it because it's Taylor Swift, so obviously it's like up there, so I'm not going to count that as my top 3 favorite films of the year. But it was amazing. Even if you aren't like a huge Taylor Swift fan, if you just casually like her music, or if you are a huge fan, I think it was, definitely a must watch. I loved seeing it in the theater. It is available currently for rent. But I'm assuming she's going to put it out for purchase, and I'm going to buy it wherever it is. So, Eras Tour movie, fantastic. Once it's on for free for us to watch, we'll watch it together. Because you've watched some of her other concert movies with me. But yeah, Eras Tour, obviously amazing. The next one was a Amazon Prime original called Totally Killer. And it was sort of like a Back to the Future meets 80s slasher film. Basically, this teenager goes back in time. I'm not going to explain the whole thing. It was kind of convoluted. But basically, she goes back in time to try to prevent her mother's friends from being murdered because her mom was like a survivor of like this serial killer back like in the 80s, and it was really funny. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, very much Scream vibes.
Yeah.
Kind of like the funny things, the anachronistic, somebody from today's age going back, just the funny things that stood out and the character pointed out.
Yeah.
Really clever.
Yeah, it was very cute. Not like my favorite movie of the year, but it was really good. Even if you don't like horror films, you like 80s movies, you just like comedy, it's definitely enjoyable for like a wide audience.
Yeah.
The second to last movie is one that I saw, which is The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So if you don't know what The Hunger Games is, you're obviously like living under a rock. But this is the prequel to The Hunger Games, and I did not get a chance to read the book because obviously The Hunger Games was a book series before it was a movie. But I did not get to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but I do want to read it after I finish this other book that I'm reading. I think I'm gonna get it on my Kindle and read it because the book obviously goes into a lot more backstory, but this is a prequel and it's about President Snow when he's younger. It's sort of like his backstory, and there's another character named Lucy Gray and Lucy Gray ends up in the Hunger Games, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing because it's not complicated, but it's a lot of lore and everything. But I really enjoy it. I thought the story was fantastic. It definitely makes me want to read the book. I think the actors they picked were really, really well done. It really felt like a true prequel. Sometimes when movie series come out and then like years later they make a prequel or they make another installment of it, even if it's in the same universe like a book or whatever, the movies don't feel connected to each other. And then when you watch them like in order, you're like, okay, this doesn't even feel like the same series. Like it was exactly like the original movies. It was fantastic. Same feel, really, really interesting story, very sad. Obviously The Hunger Games about like kids going to an arena and murdering each other. So it was very sad, but a very interesting backstory. Gives you a lot more insight into why President Snow behaved the way that he did, especially towards Katniss and the people in District 12. Really, really good story. I think you would really enjoy it.
Yeah, I do want to see it.
But I did see that in the theater with my sister around Thanksgiving, and I totally enjoyed it. If you were a Hunger Games stan like I was, you will enjoy it. Fantastic, fantastic story. And I definitely want to read the book because there's a lot more lore and a lot more just like substance. Not that the movie didn't have substance to it, but like there's a lot more backstory obviously in detail in the book version. So definitely gonna read that one when I have the chance. So fantastic film. And then the last film is another film that I saw that you didn't see, which is The Marvels. I actually saw it on the last day it was in the theater because it did not do as well in the theater as Marvel wanted it to, so they cut the theater time. It was supposed to be in the theater for much longer than it was, so I went literally the last day it was out, and I loved it. I think that critics are way too harsh on female superhero films or just female-led movies in general, and I don't think that it deserved the bad reviews and the bad ratings that it got because it was very, very good. I think Brie Larson, I know people don't like Brie Larson. I don't know why people don't like her. I have nothing against her. I think she's a fantastic actress, and I'm going on a little bit of a rant because I don't like when critics just hate on female-led movies for no reason, just because they're female-led movies. It was fantastic. I think it was just as good as the first movie. I actually think it was better than some of the other Marvel films. And the action was very good. The plot was super easy to follow. Sometimes these Marvel movies, as much as I love you, Marvel, sometimes your plots are freaking complicated and I don't know what the hell's going on. And this movie was very simple plot. Obviously, it tied in Miss Marvel, which is a TV series on Disney Plus, and so she was in it. And then it tied in Monica Rambeau, who's the daughter of Maria, and it tied in all of the movies together. And Nick Fury was in it. And it was just, I loved it. I think it was so good, and I hate that critics are like, it's a bad movie because it's a female superhero movie. Maybe you should just judge the movie as a movie instead of it being a female-led movie. Anyway, I'm gonna stop ranting. But I loved it. I thought it was so good, and I can't wait till it comes on Disney Plus so you can watch it, because I think you would really like it.
Yeah, I do want to see it.
So that's my little rant about that. Okay. So now that we have finished our list, let's go through and we're gonna pick our top 3 favorite movies. So my favorite movie, yes, look at the list. My favorite movie of the year was Barbie, obviously. But my other 2 favorite movies, I'm probably gonna say the Marvels, and I'm not gonna say the Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie because obviously that would be my favorite. So I'm not gonna count that one. Yeah, I think it's Barbie number 1, the Marvels. Megan was good though, but actually I might say Hunger Games. Barbie number 1, the Marvels, then Hunger Games, and then if I had to do 2 more, I would say Megan, then Cocaine Bear. What about you? Here's the list. I've been holding the list the whole time.
My top favorite probably had to be Cobweb, because that was just so well done.
That was a really good movie.
Yeah. 2, it's between Barbie and Five Nights at Freddy's. I like them both for very different reasons. I'd almost have to watch them both to see which one. And then
I did like Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah. I liked a lot of these movies.
I like them both, but they're so different. It's hard to compare them.
Maybe I'll say number 5 instead of Cocaine Bear was Five Nights at Freddy's, because I think I like that one more.
First, Cobweb. Second, tie between FNAF and Barbie. Third one had to be the Dungeons and Dragons. That one was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely had some different favorites on our list, but I think the majority of these movies were really, really well done. I think my least favorites were, I don't think we can count Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
We didn't finish it. So that's not fair.
That doesn't count. I think my least favorite of all these was the Meg 2. That was my least favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, 2023 had some really fantastic films, some bad ones, and then there were, like we mentioned earlier, 26 movies that we did not get to watch, but we definitely will get to them at some point. And then 2024 is literally days away, and there's already a million movies that I want to see. I think my number 1 movie so far that I want to see next year is the Mean Girls musical. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to us talk about our favorite and not so favorite movies of 2023. I hope you learned about some movies that you hadn't heard about, and I hope that you go and check some of our favorites out. As always, stay safe, stay classy, and we'll chat again with you soon. Bye!
See ya.